bedroom party! Peppa and George are still fast asleep, but something mysterious has just appeared in their room.
Aww. Wow!
The moment they wake up, they spot a big box in the corner, and it looks full of secrets. Huh? George taps on the lid to see what's inside, while Peppa listens closely, but all they hear is silence. When the lid opens, colorful paper and balloons spill out, and the idea for a mini party begins. It turns out the real surprise wasn't in the box. It was in the moments they spent together. Wow! Today is sports day at Peppa's school. All the kids are so excited. The whistle blows. It's time to start. The kids line up neatly under the teacher's guidance. Their faces show excitement and anticipation. What will be the first event? They were both excitedly talking to each other about who ran faster and reached the finish line first. The race begins! The kids run with all their might, their feet flying across the ground.
Go, go,
Who
go!
will reach the finish line first? One by one, all the others fall behind, leaving only Peppa and Rebecca Rabbit chasing each other at full speed. The cheers from the crowd get louder, and the tension rises. Molly Cat won! Wow, she's so fast! Today is a fun-filled swimming day for Peppa's family. Everyone is excited as they head to the pool for a day of splashing, swimming, and making unforgettable memories together. Everyone steps out from the changing rooms, Peppa and George in their colorful swimsuits. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig are also ready to relax and enjoy a day by the pool. Everyone is putting on their swimsuits, ready for a fun day at the pool. Daddy begins to blow up the float for his little one. Daddy is blowing up the float for his daughter. Now we can go into the water!
Hey! Hey!
Oh, so it turns out little brother is afraid of the water. It's a beautiful morning at Peppa's house. George Pig really loves to play outside. Mummy, Daddy, and Peppa have already gone out too. Hop in the car. Time to hit the road. George Pig loves going shopping with his family. Peppa and George love going shopping. First, we need to find the bananas. Today, golden sunlight bathes Peppa's garden. A gentle breeze and bird song welcome a truly wonderful morning. Peppa just can't sit still when the bright blue sky calls her outside. Meanwhile, George enjoys building his own little tower. But fun is always better when shared. before long, the kite is dancing high above, swaying with every gust of wind. Peppa Family Rainy Day. Peppa is dashing around, giggling with her dinosaur in hand. Despite the rain outside, Peppa and George are happily playing indoors. George is happily playing with his toy airplane. Huh? With a little imagination, the living room turns into Princess Peppa's castle, guarded by Sir George the dinosaur. Something's missing! George, come here! Peppa calls out. Oh dear, poor George! That chair is almost bigger than him. All hail King Dinosaur, ruler of the castle. Playground. Today, Peppa and George are going to the playground with their family. Peppa and George love going to the playground with their family. George loves spending time on the slide, going up and down again and again. Peppa and George also love playing on the swings. George is enjoying the swing, while Mummy Pig gently pushes him higher and higher. While George enjoys the swing, Peppa and Daddy Pig head over to buy some ice cream.
Peppa Pig and the strange noisy clock. Everything is very quiet until Peppa and George hear a strange sound they have never heard before. It turns out to be a clock, but not an ordinary one. It's big, it's loud, and it clearly loves attention. Every time the clock hand moves, the whole garden seems to wiggle along, and Peppa finds it very exciting. George decides to touch it. The clock immediately responds with an even louder sound, very much its own style. No one knows what this clock is really for, but it is very good at turning everything into a game. In the end, the clock becomes quiet, and Peppa and George realize that time goes fastest when you're having fun. Peppa Pig and the Toy Trumpet. One day, Peppa finds a small toy trumpet on the floor. She picks it up and wonders how it works. Peppa gently blows into the trumpet, making a funny sound. George laughs happily when he hears the sound. Soon, George tries blowing the trumpet too. The little trumpet turns the room into a cheerful musical game for Peppa and George.
Today is a sunny day. The Pig family decides to go on a picnic. Daddy Pig loads the car with lots of food and drinks. The car drives along the countryside road with a cool breeze and cheerful birds singing. When they arrive at a green meadow, everyone spreads out a picnic blanket and sets out sandwiches, fruit, and juice. Suddenly, A little yellow bee buzzes over. George feels a bit scared, but the bee just visits the flowers nearby. The family enjoys their delicious meal under the warm sunshine. They laugh together, making it a perfect day.
Whoa!
Peppa Pig loves picnics, especially with her family. Peppa Pig and the opening box. Peppa and George are playing in the living room. In the corner of the room, there's a small cardboard box with its lid slightly open. Daddy Pig is sitting on a chair, and Mummy Pig is sitting beside him. Peppa bends down to look inside the box. George is also curious and leans closer to the box. The box shakes slightly, making both of them jump in surprise. Peppa opens the box completely. Daddy Pig sees it from a distance, so he walks over and leans in to look inside. Inside are a few toys. Peppa holds the toy, and George jumps up excitedly. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig smile. The empty box lies still on the floor.
Peppa Pig and the toilet paper roll. One day, Peppa finds a soft paper roll on the shelf. She gently pulls it, and the paper keeps on rolling. Peppa grabs the end and runs around the room. Soon, long strips of paper are everywhere. Peppa and George look at their creation and laugh. Even a simple paper roll can turn into a fun and silly game.
Peppa Pig and the Fishing Day Adventure. Peppa and George brought fishing rods to the lake. Daddy and Mummy Pig following, the lake sparkling in the sun. Peppa cast her line into the water. George watched the surface, eagerly waiting. Daddy Pig accidentally dropped his fishing rod into the lake. Peppa and George giggled. Peppa caught a flower floating on the water. George cheered, and the whole family laughed with delight. The family packed up. Peppa and George waved goodbye to the lake, promising to come back next time. Two sweet cakes. Peppa's sister and Peppa brother were playing happily in the park, running around under the clear blue sky. After a while of playing, both of them started to feel hungry. The two siblings decided to go back home to find something to eat. When they arrived, Peppa brother sat down to rest in the living room, while Peppa's sister went into the kitchen. There, she saw two delicious-looking cakes and quickly brought them back to share with her brother.
Peppa and the surprise gift. Daddy Pig brings home a very big present. Peppa and George are so excited to see what's inside this mysterious box. One, two, three. Open it! Ah, it's a lovely little play tent. Now, let's set it up for a camping adventure. How wonderful! Peppa and George now have a little house of their own. The indoor camping trip has begun. A very special gift from Daddy Pig. Have a wonderful camping night, Peppa and George. Peppa Pig and the magnifying glass. One day, Peppa finds a small magnifying glass on the table. She looks through it and notices everything appears bigger. Through the magnifying glass, a tiny leaf suddenly looks very large. George becomes curious and wants to try it too. George looks at his toy through the magnifying glass, and it seems much bigger. With just a magnifying glass, Peppa and George enjoy a fun little discovery adventure. Aha! Ha! Wow! Ha-ha!
Ha!
Ha!
Hmm.
Peppa and George's robot and dinosaur toys. Today, the two siblings have new toys. George has a robot, and Peppa has a yellow dinosaur. They play together, taking the robot and dinosaur from the room out into the yard. Aha! They run around, imagine exciting adventures, and happily enjoy their favorite toys. On a hot summer day, George stays at home, sitting in front of a fan to cool off. Peppa Pig comes and sits next to him.
Wow!
Just then, their parents return home from work and see how hot the kids are, so they invite them to go outside. Suddenly, an ice cream truck arrives, bringing cool, delicious treats. The whole family enjoys the ice cream together and has a happy, joyful day.
Whoa!
On a happy Sunday, George brings home a small young plant and invites the whole family to plant it in the yard. Peppa, Mummy Pig, and Daddy Pig join George to dig the soil and carefully plant the tree.
2 hours later.
Oh!
After waiting for some time, Peppa and George run outside to check the plant. To their surprise, in front of them is a lush little forest full of green leaves. The two siblings happily jump with joy because their small garden has turned into a beautiful forest.
Peppa Pig and the Rainbow Rain. It's raining outside, and Peppa and George watch the raindrops slide down the window, wondering when a rainbow will appear. The rain stops, and sunlight peeks through the clouds. Peppa happily grabs her umbrella and runs outside with George to find the rainbow. A big, colorful rainbow arches across the sky. Peppa skips with joy, while George points up in amazement. In their imagination, Peppa and George slide down the rainbow like a giant, colorful slide, laughing as they glide through fluffy clouds. As the rainbow fades, Peppa and George lie on the grass, smiling softly, knowing that every rain brings a little magic. On a sunny day, my sister and I decided to go for a walk.
Yahoo!
The two sisters put on their hats carefully before going for a walk, so the sun wouldn't shine on their heads. Suddenly, a big gust of wind blew sister's hat away. The big sister burst into tears and cried loudly. The little brother went to get help. The giraffe agreed to help the two siblings. Surprisingly, the giraffe was a magician, so he helped the big sister get her hat back very easily. The two siblings were very happy to get their hat back.
Wow! Hooray! Whoa! Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh. Wow! Whoa! Ooh, ooh, ooh. Woo-hoo-hoo! Yay!
Peppa Pig and the Little Paper Boat. Peppa makes a paper boat and places it in a puddle. George watches the boat drift
Whoa!
slowly. A breeze pushes it forward, and they run after it. In their imagination, the boat becomes big and carries them along sparkling water. The wind stops, and they pick up the little boat, smiling.
Peppa Pig and the Shape-Shifting Box. A large cardboard box appears in the middle of the living room.
Huh?
For Peppa, even an ordinary box can be exciting. The box starts to move as if it's going for a walk. In Peppa's imagination, the box turns into a train. Moments later, it becomes a spaceship flying into space. Sometimes the simplest things can bring the biggest joy.
Peppa Pig and the magical rain. It starts to rain, and Peppa and George watch the drops roll down the window like tiny mirrors. Mummy Pig brings out their raincoats and favorite muddy boots. To them, rainy days mean the best time to jump in puddles. They rush outside, splashing water everywhere, laughing as the puddles sparkle like mirrors on the ground. Suddenly, the sun peeks through the clouds, and a bright rainbow stretches across the sky.
Wow! Whoa!
Daddy Pig steps outside, looks up, and is amazed to see the rain has stopped and a beautiful rainbow has appeared. Peppa and George laugh joyfully, ending the magical afternoon. One lovely morning, Mummy Pig was tidying up the house. Daddy Pig came over with an idea. How about we go on a relaxing family trip?
Aha!
Peppa and George cheered with excitement.
Hours later.
The whole family quickly got ready, hopped into the car, and set off. On the way, everyone was laughing and chatting happily. When they arrived, Peppa and George eagerly went rowing, while Mummy and Daddy Pig enjoyed a romantic date together. Peppa and the Fun Running Race. On a beautiful sunny day, the village held an exciting running race. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were happily chatting in the garden when Sister Peppa and Brother Peppa ran by. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig smiled and decided to go along to cheer for them. Officer Peppa raised the flag and signaled the start. All the little friends dashed forward at full speed. Sister Peppa tried her very best and finally crossed the finish line first. Everyone clapped and cheered loudly, filling the place with joy and laughter.
Peppa Pig and the Giant Car. Peppa and George are surprised to see a giant car blocking their gate. The wheels of the car are even taller than Peppa. The huge car casts a long shadow over the garden. Inside, the car looks like a moving room. As the car slowly moves, the whole garden seems to shake. Peppa and George realize that sometimes the bigger something is, the more curious it becomes. Peppa Pig and the Little Drum. One day, Peppa notices a small drum on the floor. She gently taps the drum to hear its sound. George listens carefully and finds the sound very fun. Soon, George tries playing the drum too. Peppa and George take turns making a cheerful rhythm. The little drum turns the room into a tiny concert for Peppa and George. Peppa and the surprise bubble party. Mummy Pig is doing the laundry. Oh dear, it looks like Mummy Pig has put a bit too much soap into the washing machine. Look, bubbles are overflowing everywhere. Peppa and George are so excited with this giant sea of soap. Meanwhile, Daddy Pig is busy reading his newspaper. The bubble clouds have completely surrounded him. Where has Daddy Pig gone? Daddy Pig just gave a big sneeze. What a surprising and fun bubble party for the whole family.
Peppa Pig and the Dancing Leaf. Peppa finds a big leaf in the yard and picks it up. George approaches as the leaf gently shakes.
Whoa!
The leaf twirls around and dances across the yard. Wow! They imagine following it into a sparkling garden.
Yahoo!
The wind settles, and they pick up the leaf with a smile.
Peppa Pig and the strange-sounding trumpet. Peppa finds a toy trumpet that looks very ordinary. But when she tries to blow it, the sound is very different. George is startled at first, then becomes curious. Peppa blows more gently, and the trumpet immediately changes its mood. It turns out the trumpet likes to be played in its own way. Peppa and George learn that sometimes listening is just as important as making noise. Peppa Pig and the rolling chair. A normal chair stands quietly in front of the house, or so it seems. As soon as Peppa sits down, the chair begins to move. A small push sends it rolling across the yard. The chair turns into a short and surprising ride. Yahoo! After a little journey, it finds the perfect place to stop. Sometimes, even a chair can bring a tiny adventure.
Peppa and the shared umbrella. It's a rainy morning, and Peppa brings her favorite pink umbrella. She sees Wendy Wolf getting wet under a tree. Peppa smiles and shares her umbrella with Wendy. They walk together, splashing puddles and singing happily. Madame Gazelle says, "Sharing is wonderful." Peppa and Wendy smile under the pink umbrella.
Yahoo!
Teddy Bear Rescue. George tossed Teddy up to play, but oh no! Teddy didn't come back down. Instead, he got stuck high up on a tree branch. Peppa jumped as high as she could. George stretched his arms as far as he could, but Teddy stayed firmly on the branch. Just as the two were about to give up, a sudden gust of wind blew in. Teddy fell from the branch and landed neatly in George's arms. George hugged Teddy as if reuniting with a long-lost friend, while Peppa giggled under the tree. And so, the Teddy rescue mission ended, not thanks to any plan, but thanks to the wind itself.
Yoo-hoo!
Aha!
Hey!
Huh! Come on, let's go!
Peppa Pig and the Little Spoon. Whoa. On some happy day, Peppa finds a small spoon on the table. She looks into it and sees a funny reflection.
Wow!
George curiously looks into the spoon as well. Peppa taps the spoon lightly, making a small sound. George joins in, creating a simple rhythm. The little spoon turns into a fun and creative game for Peppa and George.
and George lay on the grass, watching fluffy white clouds drift across the sky.
Peppa Pig and the Lost Cloud.
Whoa!
It's a peaceful afternoon when Peppa and George notice a cloud floating unusually close to their backyard. Wherever they go, the cloud follows, as if it's afraid of getting lost. Peppa tries to touch the cloud. George tries too, but it always stays just out of reach. Soon, the cloud begins to fade away, leaving a few raindrops behind as a goodbye. Peppa and George learn that sometimes short visits can leave the longest lasting joy. Yoo-hoo!
2 hours later.
Peppa Pig and the Mysterious Sweet Box. Peppa and George spot a mysterious sweet box on the living room sofa. When Peppa opens it, the sweet smell spreads through the room. George grabs a treat and giggles happily, making Peppa laugh too. They try each sweet with sparkling excitement.
Huh?
Daddy Pig walks in, and Peppa and George happily run to share the tasty treats with him.
Peppa Pig and the hat that wouldn't stay still. Peppa loves her new hat. It looks perfect and fits just right. But the hat doesn't seem to agree with its position. Peppa carefully fixes the hat, and it immediately chooses a new spot. George finds this very funny. The hat looks like it's playing a game. Finally, the hat decides to rest for a while on the grass. Peppa learns that sometimes being comfortable is better than wearing a perfect hat.
Peppa Pig and the Forest Walking Adventure. Peppa and George walked along the forest trail, Daddy and Mummy Pig following, with trees green on both sides. Peppa spotted a yellow butterfly flying. George pointed excitedly. Daddy Pig slid lightly on a wet branch. Peppa and George giggled. Mummy Pig picked some wild strawberries and gave them to Peppa and George, both laughing happily. The family stood on a hilltop, looking at the green forest, holding hands and laughing happily.
Peppa Pig and the Alarm Clock. One morning, Peppa and George notice an alarm clock on the table. Suddenly, the clock starts ringing loudly. Huh? Peppa gently touches the clock, and the ringing stops. But when George presses a button, the alarm rings again. In the end, the clock becomes a funny part of their morning.
Peppa and the Sparkling Magic Wand. Peppa walks into the room, looking around curiously. A small wand sparkles on the chair. Peppa walks closer and touches the wand. The wand glows brighter. Peppa opens her eyes wide in surprise. Peppa picks up the wand and waves it gently. Magical bubbles appear. Peppa smiles happily. George runs over and looks at the magical circle. Peppa waves the wand again. Glowing magic circles appear. Peppa and George jump happily. The magic light slowly fades, and they both smile happily.
Guess the object.
Wow!
Our hands help us feel the world. Today, Peppa will use her hands to guess what the objects are. A round object with a slightly rough surface. What fruit is that? Peppa has a guess.
And here is a very soft and fluffy little friend. It must be a teddy bear. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes. That's right, an orange and a teddy bear. Well done, Peppa.
Try closing your eyes and guessing objects with Peppa.
It's such a fun game. Goodbye, everyone.
Wow!
library. Today, Peppa and George are going to the bookstore. Come on, family, let's get in the car. Peppa and George really love going to the bookstore. There are so many books to choose from. Peppa picks a princess book. And George chooses a dinosaur book.
Whoa!